and restaurants all being filled up and all that, they'll be able to give you almost an exact number that it added to the economy. Now, do they call it profit to the city? They just say it's good for the city to host this kind of things. And that's really what it's about. It's good for a country to host it, but you don't want to spend a lot of money doing things that, will not be used by the people down the road.
A bit of logistic issues, but then we're glad to be back on air. Thank you so much for your patience. You're watching The Conversation, and earlier on we told you that the immediate past secretary to the government of the Federation in Nigeria, Boss Mustafa, said that $6.2 million released from the Central Bank of Nigeria in February 2023 was done via a forged document. Now, the money, he said, was released for foreign observers ahead of the 2023 general elections. Mustafa stated this when he appeared as the fourth prosecution witness in the ongoing fraud trial of the immediate past CBN Governor, Godwin Emefiele, before the Federal Capital Territory High Court in Maitama, Abuja. And at this time, joining us to discuss this in the studios, we have Evan Sufeli. He's a legal practitioner. Thank you so much for joining us on The Conversation.
Thank you. Good evening.
So were you rattled when you saw the revelation by the immediate past secretary to the government of the Federation saying that Muhammad Buhari's signature was forged to get about $6.2 million out of the Apex Bank?
I was not rattled because I knew that, I already know that under President Buhari, a lot of corruption went down the drain. And the test for that on several occasions when he was asked on certain occasion on issues around him, he had told the media all the time, almost all the time, that he's not aware. So he was never aware of anything. So I am not surprised, except that the allegation is coming from a prosecution witness by the person of Boss Mustafa. And that allegation will have to face the fire of cross-examination. You know, it is in examination in chief, that is where he laid that accusation that the president's signature was forged. Okay, he is expected to go through cross-examination from the counsel of Emefiele, that defense counsel now. And it is on the basis of that the true picture of what really transpired will be revealed, whether or not that signature was forged, or whether the president actually signed it, or whether the president actually through executive activity, ordered that that fund be released for the purpose that was stated in that letter.
Before we even talk about the SGF, when you look at the state capture that had happened under the former president, Buhari, and he now coming out to say he knows nothing about this and the others, that aloofness, what does it speak to you for someone who presides over the affairs of a country, exonerating himself from every allegation and every corruption case that has been leveled against him, against his tenure? What does that tell you?
It's very unfortunate that the president had not taken responsibility all through. And we have a very unfortunate tradition or precedent in Nigeria that once a person has served as a president, he is not investigated, he's not called to question, he's not invited, and it's never a question. And I think that's a very bad precedent. We look at South Africa, for example. Their former president, Jacob Zuma, is serving jail time now, okay, for activities that happen under his administration. But in the case of Nigeria, you just find one ex-president who is exonerated, who still live as if Section 308 of the Constitution, we talk about the immunity, presidential immunity. It looks like presidential immunity still cover them, whereas the Constitution said that you're only covered during your tenure. Okay, so after your tenure, you are supposed to be, the next president is supposed to be questioned, supposed to be called to give an account of his stewardship. But in Nigeria, here, we don't do that. And I think it's a bad and dangerous precedent. Now, Emefiele, who is a past CBN governor, is the one that all the allegations are going to crumble on top, and he's the one facing trial now. Whereas it is not all decisions that he took on his own volition, But because this one is in court already, okay, the matter is sub judice. My duty here is not to say what the court will do or what the court will conclude, but is to say that trial will continue, and by the time cross-examination happens and re-examination happens on that issue, we'll find out exactly who did what, when, and how. So the court is competent enough to get that unraveled to the public.
Well, it seems as though the Constitution does not have a binding rule that after the expiration of a tenure, an handler of a government position should come forward to give account of his stewardship. But then when another administration comes in, a new administration comes in, they do not do anything whatsoever to call the previous administration or the handler of that particular position to come ahead and speak how he administered over the affairs of the country. So do you think that should be included in the Constitution to make it law and binding?
I think it's a veritable fundamental issue you raise, that, you know, because Section 308 protects the president, the governors, the deputy governor, and the vice president during the pendency of their tenure. Because they are protected, that is okay, because if they are not protected from criminal liability and prosecution, they will be distracted. Now, there's a sense in which that makes sense to us. But conversely, it does not and will never make sense to me as a lawyer that after serving your term, okay, and after, you know, you are out of office, you are not called to question for managing the funds of over 200 million people, for managing a $700 million economy. You are not called to question. Nothing of such is put forth. I mean, even when they make a handover note, they only make a handover note which is one-sided from the outgoing administration, and they hand over to the incoming administration. And that note is not scrutinized by anybody, no third party, no audits, no nothing. And when there's the continuity, the new president now comes in, he now has to, you know, go on as if the past president was perfect, as if there were no corrupt tendencies, and then they will now start to fish for some government officials, smaller persons within the scope of that administration to prosecute. And I think that is wrong. The EFCC is charged with the responsibility to, you know, to address economic and financial crime, to investigate, trace, you know, make all the findings and prosecute. The EFCC must, as a matter of necessity, extend its prosecutorial and investigative powers to ex-president of this country, because the ball stops on that. There's no way the president will say that he's not aware of that transaction, or that it was never brought before him, so that we will know whether he declined or approved it. So I think we have to extend investigation to ex-president. We have it in South Africa already, so we should, as a matter of fact, extend it to the frontiers of our own country.
Okay, so we now go back to the response of the former SGF, that's Boss Mustafa, the immediate past secretary of the Government of the Federation, when he testified in court that he had no knowledge of the transaction and the document used to authorize the release of the fund, and he said that the particular signature was forged. I'd like my producer to pull up the slides talking about his response in the court of law, where he said that all through my service here as the SGF, I never came across these documents claimed to have been signed by the former president, that's Buhari. From the face value of these documents, having served for 5 years and 7 months as SGF, and he said this document did not emanate from the president. And he also said that the correspondence that has the seal of the Nigerian president does not carry a reference number, that is, the seal is the authority. And again, he said that also in all the 5 years and 7 months, I've never heard of the term special appropriation provision referred to. The term known to me, my lord, is appropriation as provided by the Appropriation Act, normally passed by the National Assembly, and when the government finds a gap, it brings. So we can just go on and on to look at his defense. Of course, what do you make of a statement? How do you assess his own defense as regards him saying that he's not aware at all of that particular kind of transaction? We don't even know if there are other transactions in that line where monies have left the CBN in the guise of the president requesting for it.
You see, at the risk of not sounding like defending the former CBN governor, I think that Boss Mustafa is saying two things at the same time. I have a problem with his premise and also have a problem with the conclusion of his statement before the court of law. He said that that signature was forged. It did not, the president did not sign it. That is what he said in one side. And another side is saying that that document was never brought before him. Okay? That document was never brought before him. It did not emanate from. So he's saying two things. As an SGF of a country, is it possible for the president to get to sign a document without the knowledge of the SGF? That's one question that should be answered. Are there times where possibly emergency could lead to that? Or is it all documents that go through the president that must go through the SGF? That's another question. So you can see now that the input of the president is required in this testimony. Yes. And I urge the court to, issue a subpoena. That is what the defendant, they will make that application to the court. Because that evidence needs corroboration. Because the evidence that he has given is of two convergent views. He's not saying that, he's saying that the document, was forged in one breath. And another breath is saying that that document was never presented to, it did not emanate from the president. Could he have emanated from the president and the SGF was unaware? Since that government and that era was a government of being unaware of anything. Since the Mustafa himself just sounded like Buhari. He was not aware, he had never seen that document. The president was also never aware of issues. So that testimony, that's why I say when it goes through the fire of cross-examination, it will be made clear. I do not hold brief for Emefiele because I have my own issues with Emefiele, with the way the economy was handled and all that. Okay. But the evidence has to be evidence that is unequivocal. It must be one that, if it's going to be admitted, it has to come with the purity of truth in it, and the probative value must be unquestionable. Okay,
Evans, in about 30 seconds before I let you go, would you say that the administration of Muhammadu Buhari failed woefully in tackling corruption? Because that was one of the mantra on which his campaign rode when he wanted to become the president. Do you think he failed?
Of course, the administration failed completely. When the number one man didn't know what he was doing or where the country was headed to, it was a clear evidence. It was self-evident to us that 6 months into the administration, no appointment was made. The cabinet was not made up, no appointment. And after he got into the arena of performance, we discovered that his health, began to fail him. In one occasion, he was outside the country in the UK for 90 days. Subsequently, we had other issues that came up, and not being able to do, apart from maybe the railway and one or two projects, nothing, you cannot lay your hands on anything very significant that administration achieved under 8 years. So it tells you that the administration failed completely. And as if that was not enough, the leftover, the debris of that failure is what we are seeing as the manifold corruption that has gone under the ground, where the CBN governor is now in the net of it, and the testimony of Boss Mustafa is also telling us that perhaps the court need to hear from the ex-president, and we have to deal with that.
Well, that's a big conversation that we need to continue to look into. Evans Ufeli, our legal practitioner, thank you so much for coming to our studios to talk to us. We appreciate that. So South Africa is still on the neck of Israel, considering the crusade it has remained defiant upon to continue against the Hamas terrorists. We'll look into that after the short break on the show, The Conversation. And so South Africa on Tuesday said it had asked the world courts to consider whether Israel's plan to extend its offensive in Gaza into the city of Rafah requires additional emergency measures to protect Palestinians' rights. The International Court of Justice last month ordered Israel to take all measures within its power to prevent its troops from committing genocide against Palestinians in Gaza in a case brought by South Africa. Now, Israel has denied all allegations of genocide in connection with its war against Gaza's ruling Palestinian Islamist group, Hamas, and asked the courts to reject the case outrightly, saying it respects international laws and has a right to defend itself. So Dr. David Matsanga, African Affairs Analyst, joins me from Accra, Ghana, and Fazela Mohammed, member activist for Palestinian, joins me also from Cape Town, South Africa. Thank you so much for joining us on the conversation.
Thank you very much for having me.
Okay, so let me quickly start with Dr. David Matsanga. Now, despite the ICJ ordering a stop to all actions of probable genocide against Palestinians in Gaza, Israel has remained defiant and is planning to extend its offensive to Rafah. So is Israel not pushing this revenge-filled crusade a little too far?
Thank you very much. First of all, I don't know whether you are hearing me properly.
Of course, we are.
Thank you very much. I am one of the few people in the world who knows what it means when it says, how it comes, and how it will come. I'm telling you that South Africa's case at the ICJ is a misplaced case. ICJ has no biting teeth. It doesn't bite. It can't issue summons. It can't take anybody to court. The South African case was dead on arrival because South Africa did not look at one component of what we call genocide. Genocide is committed when there is an intent. So this case, whether you go to Jerusalem, whether you go to Tel Aviv, whether you go to Ramallah, Rafah, anywhere, it will come back a verdict. There was no genocide. So for them to come back, they must prove that Israel has completely refused to say, go and inspect. Israel has called these people to come and look at the underground tunnels. The UN has refused. The people who are sent there have refused. So for you to go back to court. But one of the things why I disagree with Ramaphosa is Africa has got quite a number of difficulties, worse than what is happening, or the same as what is happening in the Gaza Strip. But South Africa has never moved even 1 inch to go to the ICJ to accuse America for having put sanctions on Zimbabwe. Look at that. And you are running because Qatar has given you money, because IUAE has given you money. You are running to get the dollars from them. You run to this case. This case is as dead as its arrival.
Okay, let's quickly go to Fazela and get a reaction to this. This thing that South Africa has no case against Israel, do you think it's a waste of time?
With due respect, South Africa's case, the first leg of the case, they found merit to the case that South Africa presented at the ICJ. The ICJ made that finding. Yes, it is true that the ICJ doesn't have full authority, and it will still require a decision of the US. The US is able to block the decision. But I think that the decision for human rights and the fight for justice for the Palestinian people is an important fight for all of us. We in South Africa recognize that an oppressive colonial settler population and its impact on the people of South Africa, we understood that because we had a similar situation. We had a racist, neo-colonial state, which we fought and through the support of the international community. And many people in Nigeria as well supported our struggle for freedom. And I think, when we talk about such a massive scale of genocide, we can't have a whataboutism. What about Sudan. It is terrible what is happening there. Yes, of course, we know that. But I think that when we're facing one of the biggest, the largest numbers of civilians being assaulted in an open air prison, and people are bombarded left, right, and center, when Israel has never been held to account. I mean, I think it's for the first time in the history of Israel that it is called to answer a case. And I think that is really, really important, because the age of impunity for Israel is over. So I think that South Africa's case, and our president has the support of all our people in South Africa for the support of human rights and justice for the Palestinian people. I don't think it's a misplaced thing. I think that all over the world, people watch with horror. Just 4 days ago, a young girl called the emergency services in Palestine and said, 5 members of my family are killed. When the Red Crescent people found her, they spoke to Israel and said, we are going to rescue this young girl. When they went there, she was rescued. And she and the 2 emergency workers were murdered in cold blood because they were coordinating with the Israelis that we...
Top stories this hour. Youths protest high cost of living in Oyo State. APC youths take over Edo State's party secretariat after governorship primaries. A Swatini activist, Similani, granted asylum in the UK. Thank you for joining us. I am Felicity Ezewike. We begin in West Africa, where some Nigerians have staged a protest to express their displeasure over the high cost of living and harsh economic realities across the country, calling on the government to address the hardship to forestall a state of emergency. The protesters who converged on Mokola Ibadan, Oyo State capital, carrying placards with various inscriptions and songs of agitation, say they will peacefully move across some major streets in Ibadan. They appeal to all concerned Nigerians to join the solidarity movement, as the people cannot continue to endure what they describe as an unbearable pain. The police public relations officer, Oyo State Command, who accompanied the protesters, says the police is focused on guaranteeing safety both for the protesters and other Nigerians, and also to ensure other people with ulterior motives do not hijack the protest.
The whole country is hungry. We just need their intervention. We do not want to fight with them. We are not here to cause any problem. We're just here to tell the government our problems, that they should just look into this for us. That they should please look into the problem of the masses. Help us. Have mercy on us. People are hungry. People are dying daily of hunger. Insecurity is killing people. We just need them to help us. They should just help us. They should just look into our case and be of help to Nigerians. That's just all we need.
Nigerians have the right to hear their opinions. And we cannot say because we are here today, we must not allow every other Nigerians to exercise their constitutional duty. Section 34, 39 and 40 empowers every Nigerian to organize a peaceful assembly and to speak about the economic hardship. On this note, this is not today's own.
Our people have the right to freedom of assembly as it is, but our duty is to ensure that it is not hijacked by unscrupulous elements. And if caution is not taken, which is why we are here, to ensure that we provide the intelligence and, of course, the physical support to ensure that this.
To take a look at this, I'm joined by a journalist with Oyo News, Olamide Adeniji. Thank you very much, Olamide, for joining us. What is the current situation in Ibadan? Has calm been restored? What are your observations about the protest?
Good evening, everyone. Well, let us say Oyo State is calm, Ibadan is calm as we speak. It was a peaceful protest, and every youth came out to just air their views or about the economic hardship in the country at the moment. But as we speak, Oyo State is peaceful. There's no problem. There's no trouble.
As someone who resides in this state, do you think that this protest had any impact? Did it resonate with the government? Has there been any response as regards the concerns raised by the protesters?
Well, as we speak, there's no response from government yet, but I am optimistic that the media has done their bit by spreading the news. And of course, just a few minutes ago, I Googled it, and I saw the story on virtually every newspaper and online online news. And with that, I'm very certain that the powers of the would have changed the response.
As a journalist who operates in that environment, what will be your honest analysis of how bad the situation is for the people that has got so painful they had to take to the streets?
The economic hardship has been, as a journalist, I'll speak as a journalist. The economic hardship has been don't let me use that word, are really getting deep into the fabric of the society. And let me take it back on a salary earning state. It's a state where it's not like Lagos that we have major businesses. Where most of those are provided by their civil servants and then petty traders and some businesses. So most of those are affected. The major population affected are petty traders and those that are low salary earners. So with this, most of those that came out today, some are drivers, some are civil servants, and some are even youth that are just earning on low income. So this, to me, as a journalist, I can say that those are really affected those that are not earning much.
Olamide, if you were to put a suggestion across to government based on the things that you've seen on the ground, what would be your suggestions to the government in terms of short-term and long-term solutions?
If you ask me, okay, short-term, our president is old enough to be my father. I'll proceed. I would have proceeded to him and plead with him to look into his policies. Some of these policies are not actually working well. And it's not, yes, we may say that these policies will, at the end, will eventually yield positive results. But at the moment, they are not yielding any results. So you might need to review them. You might need to review this policy. That's on the short term. And then long term, I think the president or the federal government and government at all levels should invite those that would help them improve the economy and the state of the nation.
All right, Olamide, thank you very much for speaking with us.
You're welcome.
Let's also tell you that the Nigerian Red Cross says that over 20 million Nigerians are suffering from acute hunger and malnutrition and has called on citizens to support efforts aimed at providing relief to them. The Red Cross, while announcing a partnership with Nigeria's EcoBank, says it is hopeful that they can reach out to Nigerians with means to support their cause. My colleague Amadine Uyi tells us more.
With the recent rise in inflation, more and more citizens have been drawn below the poverty line. While Nigeria's National Bureau of Statistics says that inflation has risen to almost 30%, the Nigerian Red Cross has also raised an alarm over the increase of citizens lacking access to food and regarded as acutely poor.
Today is a day for us to think about what we can do as individuals to help people who are suffering from the impact of this increased vulnerability, particularly here in Nigeria.
In Nigeria, a dire hunger crisis is currently affecting the lives of many people. It is a situation that demands for immediate attention and collective efforts to alleviate the suffering of those affected.
The Red Cross says that it is hopeful it can reach citizens with means to provide relief for Nigerians in need.
We're particularly delighted to partner with the Nigerian Red Cross Society in this bold initiative. Nigeria Hunger Crisis Emergency Appeal to reach out to 1,092,030 people.
Many Nigerians who have the ability, who have the means, even in this harsh environment, that they become generous, that they open up their heart and partner with Nigeria Red Cross to collect resources and allow Nigeria Red Cross to respond to this crisis.
In joining forces, we aim to raise funds locally to address the persistent needs of our communities. The funds will be directed towards providing multipurpose cash for emergency relief and recovery, prioritizing healthcare, nutritional support for pregnant and lactating mothers, water hygiene and sanitation initiatives, and livelihood to reduce disease and other infections.
The Red Cross says that it is also hoping to reach about 18,250 households across 11 states of the nation. In Abuja for News Central, I am Amadine Uyi.
To some politics now. More drama continues to unfold in the Edo State branch of the All Progressive Congress APC as the youth arm of the party has now taken over party secretariat building in Benin City, the Edo State capital. This followed the confusion that came after the party's primaries, where factions of the party announced 3 different winners of the primaries. News Central's Bernard Akede, who is in Benin, the Edo State capital, had an exclusive interview with the youth leader. His report.
Now it is youth o'clock. That's what these young men and women who represent the youth arm of the State All Progressives Congress APC were chanting today as we spoke to them. In an exclusive interview, the youth leader, Tony Kabaka, gave a brief recap of what happened on Saturday, stating that the people have voted and their votes must count.
Well, why you see the youth angry, why they are hungry, why they engage on secretariat, is because the way and manner they want to change the votes that we voted for Dennis Idahosa.
Kabaka and the supporters have taken charge of the party's state secretariat, and they say they shall remain there until normalcy is restored to the party.
We all came out en masse with our registration membership card to vote for Dennis Idahosa. And the election was conducted by the committee set up by National Working Committee, was headed by Hope Uzodima. This election was conducted and it was peaceful.
You would recall that between Saturday and Sunday, 3 different candidates have been declared winner of the party primaries by different groups. The youths are now calling on all involved to accept 43-year-old Dennis Idahosa as the rightful winner.
Some state working committee, few people inside them that have collected money from aspirants. They say their aspirant must succeed. Because they did not succeed, they are going to work against the party. So information reaching us that they have alliance with opposition to destabilize what we have done. They did it in past election, we will not allow it this time. So why we the youth? Because this is the first time that youth have come out for governorship. This is the first time we have a youth as a candidate.
Political analysts are saying the APC will have to put its house in order if they hope to challenge the ruling PDP and other oppositions who have their primaries coming up in just a few days. In Benin for News Central, I'm Bernard Akede.
Many thanks, Bernard. We'll go on a short break. When we come back, we have more stories. Do stay with us.
For decades, the Niger Delta oil-producing region has suffered losses from oil theft and pipeline vandalism, which has led to Nigeria losing billions of foreign exchange worth of crude. But with the engagement of Tantita security services, pipeline vandalism and oil theft has reduced significantly. Tantita Security Services is an internationally recognized security outfit based in Delta State. Tantita specializes in providing professional security solutions to the oil and gas industry through a strategic partnership with the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation Limited, NNPCL, with over 1,000 plus field agents, 30 plus operational and combat boats, 10 ground-to-air drones. Tantita is changing the narrative around security in the Niger Delta. Tantita Security Services, dedicated to putting an end to oil theft in the Niger Delta.
If you've just joined us, you're watching Tonight. A reminder of our top stories. Youths protest high cost of living in Oyo State. APC youths take over Edo State Party Secretariat after governorship primaries. Eswatini activist Similani granted asylum in the UK. Thank you for staying with us. Nigeria and Brazil considering the possibility of establishing direct flight operations between their respective financial capitals of Lagos and Sao Paulo. Both countries also reaffirmed their commitment to deepening bilateral relations, mainly to increase the volume of trade and cooperation across solid mineral exploration, healthcare, and agriculture. This followed discussions between Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu and his Brazilian counterpart, Lula da Silva, on the sidelines of the 37th Ordinary Session of the Assembly of Heads of States and Government of the African Union in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, on Sunday. Nigeria and Brazil began diplomatic relations in the 1960s and have since collaborated in agriculture, education, energy, and trade. I'm now joined on the news by President, Nigerians in Diaspora Organization, America's Brazil chapter, Chika Emmanuel. Chika, thank you very much for joining us. What specific steps can be taken to boost trade between Nigeria and Brazil, and how can both countries work together to increase their economic competitiveness?
Thank you for having me. First of all, let me just explain this. Nigeria and Brazil, like you rightly said, have had this relationship for a very long time, and I think this is the right time to really act. Like President Lula said during that interview, Brazil has a lot to offer. So one of the first things I would suggest is that we improve on the diplomatic relationship between both countries. It's been very cold all this while. I would suggest very strongly that we have state visits on both sides and that we also work hard to organize more trade missions between Nigeria and Brazil.
Are there any potential obstacles to improved relations between the two countries, and how can they be overcome?
I think it's been a sense of miscommunication all this while, to be honest. So I do not see anything that really stops both countries from negotiating positively. Of course, when President Lula was elected into office in 2003, he did a spectacular job giving special attention to most African countries, which was somehow interrupted in the past administration here in Brazil. But President Lula is back and ready to work with us. So I would suggest that the government gives a bit of more attention to neither Brazil, particularly in the area of agriculture. So we could work with the Nigerian embassy here to create the atmosphere for such operations.
How can cooperation in the energy sector, for instance, particularly the renewable energy, help to deepen ties between the two countries?
I think it's so obvious today that Brazil has what it takes to lead the world. We have the Amazon forest here. Brazil is kind of self-sufficient here. So, for example, it's just amazing what Brazil has been able to generate that has really influenced lives here in South America. So I think that Nigeria, taking into account the challenges we have back home, should work very diplomatically and extensively to tap into such resources here in Brazil. And I think the doors are quite wide open for that to happen.
Is there a need for stronger cultural and educational exchange between the two countries, and what can be done to promote these areas?
Yes, I completely agree. We should work really hard on cultural ties with Brazil. Just recently, I think just yesterday, the carnival was concluded here in Brazil, Rio de Janeiro, Bahia, and Sao Paulo. And I was amazed by the different number of samba schools that had to embed their schools' activities into the African culture, particularly Nigerian, and taking into account too that this country, if we want to do serious business with Brazil, we have to begin to introduce Portuguese in our primary, actually secondary schools, I would say. I know we have some activities in universities, but we should expand a little bit so that Nigerians will get to speak Portuguese, which is the official language here in Brazil. And I think that's really going to enhance. And I think I would also suggest that our embassies should give special attention on training their local staffs, or even our Nigerian diplomats in general, to speak the language, because it helps when they attend events here in Brazil.
How, in your view, can Nigeria and Brazil work together to build closer links with other countries in Africa and South America?
You see, one serious challenge we have is that we do not have direct flights, and I think that's a serious problem. Brazil has more than 200 million people, likewise Nigeria. So, and I remember we used to have about $10 billion trade negotiations between Brazil and Nigeria, which has dropped to 1.6 or so. So if we want to revive such a strong relationship, direct flight from Brazil must be taken into serious consideration now. Right now, we do not have any flights to Nigeria. We would have to fly through South Africa, Ethiopia, and sometimes Dubai. A typical Brazilian businessman would not be very interested in flying up to 26 hours to go to Nigeria for a kind of business meeting or so. And please allow me a second to strongly mention that most of the resources, most of the revenue, fund, wealth generated here in Brazil is in São Paulo. So it is not very comfortable that we do not have a consulate here in São Paulo. We used to have one, but due to some political issues, so it was closed. So it would be important for President Ahmed Bola Tinubu to please give special attention to the case of São Paulo, because with a consulate here, I think we'll be doing much better.
Chika, thank you very much for speaking with us.
Thank you for having me.
In the meantime, Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu has returned to Abuja after a 4-day official trip to the capital of Ethiopia, Addis Ababa, where he participated in the 27th Ordinary Session of the Assembly of Heads of States and Government of the African Union. While in Addis Ababa, President Tinubu, among other things, was appointed by the AU as his champion for human resources for health and community health delivery partnership. He also joined other African leaders to propose solutions to common challenges facing the countries, as well as deliberating on refocusing the Continental Organization for better service deliveries in various areas, including healthcare, commerce, and security. For fear of possible scarcity of petroleum products at the filling stations, consumers have begun panic buying of petrol, gas, and kerosene. On Monday, the 19th of February, many filling stations in Umuahia, the Edo State capital, were not open for business, even as the few that dispensed had long queues of vehicles and jerrycans. News Centre's Chinwe Ugele reports.
There were rumors about the planned downing of tolls by the National Association of Truck Owners until the 15th of February, when the body officially wrote to Nupeng expressing concerns about the high freight rates. Even before the commencement of the strike, the filling stations decided to hoard their products from Saturday, and by Monday, there were just a handful of stations selling to consumers.
Government should not allow that. Whatever they have to do, they should do it to stop this kind of threat.
Without fuel, all these vehicles will not be able to convey us to our various places of work. Like when I was coming to work in the morning, I noticed that so many fuel stations weren't selling. And at the same time, it caused hold up because there were a lot of cars parked there willing to purchase fuel, but they were not able to get anything.
But if fuel no there, you can't go work because there will be no transport. No keke, no motor, no machine, no anything. If you are going to work at Obakala or Aba or Nature or Hofia, you can't tell me that you can trek.
Not many citizens understand the reason for the situation, but were quick to embark on panic purchase of commodities, creating long queues. The citizens are worried that the situation may get worse if the matter is not resolved in time.
It is going to be very, in fact, extremely difficult for the people to really survive, because already the price of fuel is beyond reach. Nobody expects to be buying fuel at the rate we are buying it. And then it's going to be complicated with this kind of situation where the suppliers, the drivers will, withdraw their service.
They know what is right, and they should do it so that everybody will stop complaining, and we all will be able to go to our various places at the appropriate time.
The masses are at the mercy of independent oil marketers who increase pump price and sell as they like since the deregulation of the downstream sector, which removed the power of control from the government. In Omaha for News Central, Chinwe Uge.
Edo State government has commenced the cleanup of shanties occupied by squatters under the Obalende Bridge in the Etiosa local government area. Commissioner for the Environment and Water Resources, Tokunbo Wahab, disclosed this in his X handle. News Central's correspondent Bettina Uweli reports.
Over the weekend, on Saturday morning, the Lagos State government commenced the cleanup of shanties occupied by squatters under the Obalende Bridge in the Etiosa local government area, after a 4-day ultimatum to commercial drivers and squatters under the bridge to vacate their shanties and move any unlawful motor parks to the state's recognized parks.
During Ambode time, Ambode moved on with the project in this place for his first time. After he didn't have the second time, they stopped the project. We are pleading to Mr. Governor now, let him, if they started this project, let them start it and finish it, because of the security of the life of our children and the community is very critical.
This is the third time that the government has demolished here. We are not happy the first time because it was condemned. During the time of Fashola came here. He refurbished it. When Ambode came, Ambode demolished it. To this time, it was Ambode that demolished this ground to this time, and it was never been repaired. That was why all those touts have their chance to come in. So if government has demolished this place now on Saturday, if they didn't repair it, such a thing is going to happen again, because they will start rebuilding their houses.
In a similar development, after a 5-day quit notice, the government destroyed and cleared illegal shanties occupied by squatters under the Ijera Bridge and announced its plan to convert the area to a recreational space. According to Lagos State Governor Mr. Babajide Sanwo-Olu, there will be different kinds of recreational activities created under the bridge, and nobody will be allowed to live or sleep under the bridges anymore, a move that has equally caused worry amongst market vendors who are used to selling their wares there.
Inú ọgbà tí wọ́n fún wa yìí, a dúpẹ́ náà bí wọ́n ṣe bá wa wò, torí pé gbogbo àwọn ọmọ kọ́mọ tí wọ́n wà níbẹ̀ yẹn kò táwa gan lọ́rùn, tí wọ́n ń ta gbó, tí wọ́n mú kó lò nǹkan kan yẹn, tí wọ́n bá tẹ̀ láti bá wa lé àwọn ọmọ yẹn gan dànù sef, ó tẹ́ wa lọ́rùn kí wọ́n bá wa lé wọn. Ṣùgbọ́n gbogbo àwọn táwa ń bí ìbàyẹ̀ oníṣẹ́ ọwọ́ ni gbogbo wa, a lówó ṣọ́ọ̀pù lọ́wọ́ ló fi di pé à ń jókòó lẹ́sẹ̀ títì.
The third time, they say, is a charm. It is hoped that after this third round of demolition done by yet a third governor, there will be no need for a fourth round of demolition at Obalende Underbridge. In Lagos, for News Central, Bettina Nwili.
Many thanks, Bettina. Coming up, Eswatini activist granted asylum in the UK. We'll bring you more on this when we return. Do stay with us.
Hello, my bro. Man, the rain is so heavy here. And there's so much traffic. I think we should postpone, huh?
Not a chance. Aisha.
We don't quit, guys. I'll be there.
Done.
2 files received.
I'm on my way. Take first right in 50 meters and you're there.
Copy that. Aisha, where are you?
Guess where?
2 minutes. 2 minutes. Move. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Runway X.
The future of fashion showcasing.
Very impressive. How did you pull that off? With Nigeria's finest tech talents. And Glow.
Power your relentless ambition with ultra-high-speed data. Glow with pride.
Good to know you're still with us. Now, 15 of the 20 candidates who were approved to stand in Senegal's delayed February presidential poll have called for the new vote to be held no later than April 2. President Macky Sall, whose term officially runs out on that day, announced the postponement of the February 25 vote just hours before official campaigning was due to begin. The move plunged Senegal into its worst political turmoil in decades. Last week, the top constitutional body overturned the decision. However, it has left open the question of whether the election will be organized before Sall leaves office or if the ballot will feature the same candidates. In southern Africa, after having fled the kingdom of Eswatini over 2 years ago, former member of parliament Nduduzi Similani has been granted asylum in the UK. Similani, a pivotal figure in the unrest in Eswatini, sparked by demands for democratic reforms in the landlocked monarchy, has been in hiding since he heard that a warrant of arrest had been issued against him by King Mswati. However, Eswatini government spokesperson Sabelo Dlamini denied that the arrest of the MPs were ordered by Mswati. Meanwhile, back in his home country, civil groups and citizens are still pushing for change, and there is pressure to conform to a repressive political system that has led many to poverty. And up north, 10 people were shot dead in Libya's capital as the UN mission in the war-scarred country on Monday called for a prompt and thorough investigation. Libyan media reported that more than a dozen people died in the shootings on Saturday in a villa in Tripoli's Abu Salim district without pointing to who was behind the killings. The incident happened on the 13th anniversary of the popular revolt that ended Muammar Gaddafi's 42-year dictatorship, which sparked years of war and turmoil in the North African country. The UN support mission in Libya said on X that it condemns the violent incident in Abu Salim area, Tripoli, on February 17, during which at least 10 people were reported killed, and that it continued to monitor the situation. Outside Africa, during an official visit to Warsaw, the Swedish Prime Minister offered his condolences to the family of Russian opposition figure Alexei Navalny and proposes a new and separate sanctions regime for Russia in response to human rights violations. Alexei Navalny's widow had earlier on Monday accused President Vladimir Putin of killing her husband and vowed to continue his work 3 days after he died in a Russian prison. Her video address came as the Kremlin said an investigation into his death was ongoing and his mother was denied access to his body for 3 days.
Let me first begin to convey
our condolences to Alexei Navalny's family and to all those people tirelessly advocating for a political change inside Russia. The Russian authorities and President Putin personally bear full responsibility for his death. Russian officials must be held accountable and responsible, and Sweden would propose.
Let's now join our business desk for today's business news.
Business news in association with Money Master PSB, the easy way to master your money.
On business, in 2023, Nigeria's banking sector received $832.64 million in foreign capital, leading to a 60% decrease from the previous year. The first quarter saw the highest inflow at $304.56 million, followed by varying amounts in subsequent quarters. Citibank Nigeria Limited led with over $1.03 billion, while Stanbic IBTC Bank and First Bank of Nigeria attracted $919.32 million and $447.69 million, respectively. Despite the sector's decline, experts like Parthian Partners CEO Oluseyi Olushoga view the inflow positively, anticipating eventual benefits for other sectors. In Q4 2023, total capital importation rose to $1.09 billion, with the production and manufacturing sector receiving the most of $450.11 million. The UK, Mauritius, and the Netherlands were major sources, and Lagos State remained the top destination with $771 million. Now, interest rates in Ghana fell for the 7th consecutive week despite a marginal increase in the January 2024 inflation. According to the auction results by the Bank of Ghana, the government exceeded its target once again. The yields on the T-bills have been falling in line with most analysts' forecasts due to a reduction in inflation in the last 7 months. The yield on the 91-day bill went down by 40 basis points to 27.89%. That of the 182-day bill also took a nosedive to 30.39% from the previous week's 30.43%. The rate on the 364-day bill also dropped to 30.89% from 30.99% the preceding week. Meanwhile, the government raised 5.67 billion Ghanaian cedis from the treasury market, about 23.64% over subscription. To the Horn of Africa, we tell you that Kenya is developing new regulations to oversee cryptocurrency trading, citing concerns about increased transactions in virtual assets, leading to heightened risks of money laundering and terrorism financing. A technical working group advising the Treasury is drafting regulations, considering the possibility of a standalone regulator for virtual assets. Despite being ranked among top dealers in peer-to-peer crypto platforms by Chainalysis, Kenya currently lacks cryptocurrency trading regulations. The Financial Reporting Center Director General Saitoti Maika emphasized the need for regulation to prevent exploitation for illicit activities. Kenya's efforts align with the Financial Action Task Force through ESAAMLG to improve the integrity of its financial system and avoid potential grey listing. And that's it on Business News for this hour. I am Lekon Onobanjo. Many thanks for watching. Just stay with us. There's still more to come.
Business News in association with Money Master PSB, the easy way to master your money. Sports Update, brought to you by Corn Oil. Corn Oil, we go the extra mile.
Favor Ijwa is standing by with the latest in the world of sports. Favor, what's going on with the Nigeria Women's Football League?
5 matches on television. As she made this known, of course, chairman of the Nigeria Women's Football League, NWFL, Ikejobi says the board plan before the end of the season is to beam Super 6 matches on television. In an exclusive chat with News Central in Abidjan, the astute administrator said this initiative is to ensure the women's game has full media coverage, as this will further boost the game. The NWFL is currently in its 8th week with Heartland Queens on top of Group A with 14 points, while Rivers Angels currently on 15 points at top of Group B.
Being the first one, and that now we're using that as a marketing tool. So you know how this thing is. You've done this, you have to, at the time we came on board, by the time we settled down, most companies had spent both their advertising budgets and their media budgets. So what we're doing is that we're using this new year to revive the conversations. They're ongoing, and I believe that before the season runs out, we will run a few of our matches on TV, with a view, therefore, to now be fully on TV from next season. This first year for us was more about trying different things, and so far those things are attracting interest from corporate organizations.
All right, away from there, as the 13th Africa Games in Ghana draws closer, the locations for various sports disciplines have been disclosed, adding to the anticipation for the upcoming event scheduled to run from March 8, 2024 to March 23, 2024. The Boteman Sports Complex will be a hub of various activities hosting badminton, handball, weightlifting, basketball, tennis, and fencing. It will also serve as the venue for volleyball, table tennis, karate, judo, taekwondo, MMA, wrestling, and aquatic events like swimming and triathlon. University of Ghana, Legon Games Village will serve as the central games center. It will handle accreditation, transportation, and administrative matters. Additionally, it will also host sports such as arm wrestling, athletics, squash, and rugby. Football enthusiasts can look forward to action at the University of Ghana Stadium, which will host football, athletics, and triathlon. Meanwhile, the Accra Sports Stadium and Cape Coast Stadium will be the venues for male and female football, respectively. This edition of the African Games in Ghana is set to feature 30 sports disciplines. Interesting time ahead of the Africa Games, and now to football in South Africa. Captain of the Bayana, Refilo Jane, has been withdrawn from the squad of 23 players to face Tanzania in a crucial two-leg third-round 2024 Paris Olympic Games qualifiers. For the first leg, South Africa will be away in Dar es Salaam to face the home team on Friday, 23rd of February. The reverse fixture will be held at the Mbombela Stadium in Mpumalanga on Tuesday evening, 27th of February at 7:30 p.m. SA time. In the absence of the injured Jane, head coach Desiree Ellis will be hoping that, among others, that the talented but inexperienced Lesogo Nkone of TS Galaxy Queens can come to the party as she receives her first call-up to the Bayana. Jane last played for her country in August 2023 at the FIFA Women's World Cup in Australia and New Zealand, where she got injured in the second match of the tournament against Argentina. Away from there now, of course, to Europe, where Roy Hodgson has stepped down as Crystal Palace boss, so the club can bring forward their plans to appoint a new manager. Hodgson was taken ill during training on Thursday amid reports he was to be sacked. The Eagles, of course, have lost 10 of their past 16 Premier League games and are 16th in the table, 5 points above relegation zone. Palace visit Everton, who are 18th in the Premier League, on Monday night, with, of course, a new coach appointed, Oliver Glasson, who, of course, was a champion with Eintracht Frankfurt winning the Europa League. Glasson, who is 49 years of age, will tinker the squad in their next Premier League game come next weekend. Interesting time ahead, of course, for West Ham United as we wait to see how much of experience Oliver Glasson will bring to the squad. And that's it on Sports Update. I am Favor Itwa.
Sports Update brought to you by Corn Oil. Corn Oil, we go the extra mile.
A high-performance car is like a high-performance athlete. What you get out of it has everything to do with what you put into it. Quattro. With its high-performance formula, it's designed specifically to ensure engine cleanliness, and it's guaranteed to give your car perfect performance. From start to finish. Quattro Lubricants, 100% auto fitness from Conoil.
Entertainment news in association with Glow Unlimited.
Let's now join my colleague Jadel Simon for the latest in entertainment. Jadel, over to you. What's going on in the entertainment world?
Hi, Felicity. Nice to be with you in the studio tonight. Now, if you've been following the comedy space in Nigeria, you know that one name that keeps recurring more often than not is Seyi Lor, mostly due to his controversial and not so popular political takes. Well, we had the opportunity to sit with him, and in this chat, he shares how he manages online criticism. Let's take a look at that.
These people who are bullies or trolls online want to attack what they think you love the most. And for me, because of previous engagement online, they discovered that I'm somebody who loves my family so much. And so the best place they want to attack is my family, is my wife, my children. And also, they know that I'm very passionate about the job that I do, which is comedy. And so what else do you want to do? You want to tell me that he's a failed comedian, he's not funny, but I've done it for 20 years and it has paid my bills up to now, you know, so I must have been doing something right. You know, so I would rather stick to what I've been doing right than to listen to the opinions of people who really didn't get you there. And you know, Nigerians have this kind of mentality that we were the ones who patronized him to get him there, you know. And I'm also this kind of person who have this mentality that I can leave anything and do something else and I will still be great. Okay. And so if you decide to take comedy away, I can become a bus driver and be the best in it. If you decide to take bus driving away, I can become the best teacher, to become a teacher and become the best in it.
Or you go right back into medicine.
Who
like
says? Like I still tell my family, I still tell my wife that probably in another 3, 4, 5 years, I might decide to just quit comedy and go study medicine. I love it that much.
It's not late. I mean,
it's never late for me.
Exactly.
It's never late. I could just pick up my book, dust up my book, because I still remember some of those things in Ababio. For somebody like you who studied medicine, you remember the particulars.
I must commend Seyi Lor on that one, because not too many of us know how to manage online bullies and criticisms. Now let's talk about BAFTA. Oppenheimer swept the 77th British Academy Film Award.
Entertainment news in association with Glow Unlimited.
Where is Glory? Excuse me, ma'am.
Hello? Where Glow now?
Are they here?
No, Glow, don't go village. Tell all our customer, Abi.
Everybody pay attention. See, now Glow berekete 10x. Now he might take tension my customers. Now they dash me 10 times the credits when I load. Or even summer me double data join.
Yeah. Wait, so with 1 5 when they give all of us, so you they enjoy up to
15,000 naira credit and data. And I say I never finish you. See, when I say if we enjoy, if we not join Glow berekete 10x, when I go get 1,000 naira welcome credit. Finish.
Glow, you don't win.
Una see they here. Hello, please, I'm looking for Glow. Please save now Glow with the 5. Now Glow with the go. Okay, so
enjoy 10 times the value of your recharge on Glow berekete 10x. You also get 1,000 naira for calls and data and double data bonus on your subscription.
Now, away from entertainment, let's tell you what is trending in Nigeria tonight. Nigerian filmmaker Toyin Abraham finds herself once again making the Nigerian trends table. During the presidential elections in 2023, Abraham put out a post saying the now president of Nigeria, Bola Tinubu, shared some ideas to solve the challenges Nigerians are facing. She said listening to him indeed renewed her hope and reaffirmed why he was her preferred candidate. Now, following the rise in living crisis, ex-user Duke of Africa called out Abraham in a tweet, saying, "I am still waiting for Toyin Abraham to come and explain to us the ideas Tinubu shared with her during elections campaign." That tweet, my friends, is the reason for the season. Let's take a look at more tweets on X. Achiever Wealth is saying, her hope is presently being renewed by the INEC president through the movie industry, and I pray that each time she releases a movie, it will keep getting renewed. Can somebody say amen? Someone else is saying, we know her. We know her and we love her. We know her and we love her. And now our girl, Kenyan chess champion and comedian Elsa Majimbo is trending alongside international supermodel Naomi Campbell, after Majimbo revealed how Campbell had been responsible for a lot of her hits and blows. In a now deleted TikTok video, Elsa revealed how she met the British supermodel, what happened between them and their current relationship. She went down memory lane to December 2020, the first time the two met. The summary of the gist is that Naomi Campbell bullied her, and she suspects that Naomi had a hand in the downward slide her career took after their fallout. So a tweet is saying, here's a tweet from Immorteder saying, this Elsa thing is so funny to me. Why are millennials so afraid to go against the status quo? Everyone is talking about how she should move on, how she should move smarter and play directly, play the long game, as in the same things that have allowed abusers to thrive. This one is saying, it took Elsa years to get to a place where she felt comfortable enough to talk about it. So clearly, she has thought about her career and how this impacts her. So you also can be more concerned about her career and her well-being than she is. That's not your job. Wale Lawal is saying, well done to Elsa. Many elders in African spaces moves as she described, and I will always hold space for anyone that refuses to enable it further. Predictably, there will be legal threats, defamation allegations. My advice, get good lawyers and stand by your words. I think I'm standing with Wale Lawal on that one. And that's all for tonight on Entertainment and NC Trends. I am Jadel Simon.
Many thanks, Jadel. I did see that story about Naomi Campbell, but honestly, I didn't watch the video. We hope to see an end to that, though. Bullying isn't a good thing. Thanks again, Jadel. And that's all for tonight, but
a bit of logistic issues, but then we're glad to be back on air. Thank you so much for your patience. You're watching The Conversation, and earlier on we told you that the immediate past secretary to the government of the Federation in Nigeria, Boss Mustafa, said that $6.2 million released from the Central Bank of Nigeria in February 2023 was done via a forged document. Now, the money, he said, was released for foreign observers ahead of the 2023 general elections. Mustafa stated this when he appeared as the fourth prosecution witness in the ongoing fraud trial of the immediate past CBN Governor Godwin Emefiele before the Federal Capital Territory High Court in Maitama, Abuja. And at this time, joining us to discuss this in the studios, we have Evan Sufeli. He's a legal practitioner. Thank you so much for joining us on the conversation.
Thank you. Good evening.
So were you rattled when you saw the revelation by the immediate past secretary to the government of the Federation saying that Muhammad Buhari's signature was forged to get about $6.2 million out of the Apex Bank?
I was not rattled because I knew that, I already know that under President Buhari, a lot of corruption went down the drain. And the test for that on several occasions when he was asked on certain occasion on issues around him, he had told the media all the time, almost all the time, that he's not aware. So he was never aware of anything. So I am not surprised, except that the allegation is coming from a prosecution witness by the person of Boss Mustafa. And that allegation will have to face the fire of cross-examination. You know, it is in examination in chief, that is where he laid that accusation that the president's signature was forged. Okay, he is expected to go through cross-examination from the counsel of Emefiele, that defense counsel now. And it is on the basis of that the true picture of what really transpired will be revealed, whether or not that signature was forged, or whether the president actually signed it, or whether the president actually through executive activity, ordered that that fund be released for the purpose that was stated in that letter.
Before we even talk about the SGF, when you look at the state capture that had happened under the former president, Buhari, and he now coming out to say he knows nothing about this and the others, that aloofness, what does it speak to you for someone who presides over the affairs of a country, exonerating himself from every allegation and every corruption case that has been leveled against him, against his tenure? What does that tell you?
It's very unfortunate that the president had not taken responsibility all through. And we have a very unfortunate tradition or precedent in Nigeria that once a person has served as a president, he is not investigated, he's not called to question, he's not invited, and it's never a question. And I think that's a very bad precedent. We look at South Africa, for example. Their former president, Jacob Zuma, is serving jail time now, okay, for activities that happen under his administration. But in the case of Nigeria, you just find one ex-president who is exonerated, who still live as if Section 308 of the Constitution, we talk about the immunity, presidential immunity. It looks like presidential immunity still cover them, whereas the Constitution said that you're only covered during your tenure. Okay, so after your tenure, you are supposed to be, the next president is supposed to be questioned, supposed to be called to give an account of his stewardship. But in Nigeria here, we don't do that. And I think it's a bad and dangerous precedent. Now, Emefiele, who is a past CBN governor, is the one that all the allegations are going to crumble on top, and he's the one facing trial now. Whereas it is not all decisions that he took on his own volition, but because this one is in court already, okay, the matter is sub judice. My duty here is not to say what the court will do or what the court will conclude, but is to say that trial will continue, and by the time cross-examination happens and re-examination happens on that issue, we'll find out exactly who did what, when, and how. So the court is competent enough to get that unraveled to the public.
Well, it seems as though the Constitution does not have a binding rule that after the expiration of a tenure, an handler of a government position should come forward to give account of his stewardship. But then when another administration comes in, a new administration comes in, they do not do anything whatsoever to call the previous administration or the handler of that particular position to come ahead and speak how he administered over the affairs of the country. So do you think that should be included in the Constitution to make it law and binding?
I think it's a veritable fundamental issue you raise, that, you know, because Section 308 protects the president, the governors, the deputy governor and the vice president during the pendency of their tenure, because they are protected. That is okay, because if they are not protected from criminal liability and prosecution, they will be distracted. Now, there's a sense in which that makes sense to us. But conversely, it does not and will never make sense to me as a lawyer that after serving your term, okay, and after you are out of office, you are not called to question for managing the funds of over 200 million people, for managing a $700 million economy. You are not called to question. Nothing of such is put forth. I mean, even when they make a handover note, they only make a handover note which is one-sided from the outgoing administration, and they hand over to the incoming administration. And that note is not scrutinized by anybody, no third party, no audits, no nothing. And when there's the continuity, the new president now comes in, he now has to go on as if the past president was perfect, as if there were no corrupt tendencies, and then they will now start to fish for some government officials, smaller persons within the scope of that administration to prosecute. And I think that is wrong. The EFCC is charged with the responsibility to address economic and financial crime, to investigate, trace, make all the findings and prosecute. The EFCC must, as a matter of necessity, extend its prosecutorial and investigative powers to ex-president of this country, because the ball stops on that. There's no way the president will say that he's not aware of that transaction, or that it was never brought before him, so that we will know whether he declined or approved it. So I think we have to extend investigation to ex-president. We have it in South Africa already, so we should, as a matter of fact, extend it to the frontiers of our own country.
Okay, so we now go back to the response of the former SGF, that's Boss Mustafa, the immediate past secretary of the Government of Federation, when he testified in court that he had no knowledge of the transaction and the document used to authorize the release of the fund, and he said that the particular signature was forged. I'd like my producer to pull up the slides talking about his response in the court of law, where he said that all through my service here as the SGF, I never came across these documents claimed to have been signed by the former president, that's Buhari. From the face value of these documents, having served for 5 years and 7 months as SGF. And he said this document did not emanate from the president. And he also said that the correspondence that has the seal of the Nigerian president does not carry a reference number. That is, the seal is the authority. And again, he said that also in all the 5 years and 7 months, I've never heard of the term special appropriation provision referred to. The term known to me, my lord, is appropriation as provided by the Appropriation Act, normally passed by the National Assembly, and when the government finds a gap, it brings. So we can just go on and on to look at his defense. Of course, what do you make of his statements? How do you assess his own defense as regards him saying that he's not aware at all of that particular kind of transaction? We don't even know if there are other transactions in that line where monies have left the CBN in the guise of the president requesting for it.
You see, at the risk of not sounding like defending the former CBN governor, I think that Boss Mustafa is saying two things at the same time. I have a problem with his premise, and also have a problem with the conclusion of his statement before the court of law. He said that that signature was forged. It did not, the president did not sign it. That is what he said in one side. And another side is saying that that document was never brought before him. Okay? That document was never brought before him. It did not emanate from. So he's saying two things. As an SGF of a country, is it possible for the president to get to sign a document without the knowledge of the SGF? That's one question that should be answered. Are there times where possibly emergency could lead to that? Or is it all documents that go through the president that must go through the SGF? That's another question. So you can see now that the input of the president is required in this testimony. Yes. And I urge the court to, issue a subpoena. That is what the defendant, they will make that application to the court. Because that evidence needs corroboration. Because the evidence that he has given is of two convergent views. He's not saying that, he's saying that the document, was forged in one breath. And another breath is saying that that document was never presented to, it did not emanate from the president. Could he have emanated from the president and the SGF was unaware? Since that government and that era was a government of being unaware of anything. Since the Mustafa himself just sounded like Buhari. He was not aware, he had never seen that document. The president was also never aware of issues. So that testimony, that's why I say when it goes through the fire of cross-examination, it will be made clear. I do not hold brief for Emefiele because I have my own issues with Emefiele, with the way the economy was handled and all that. Okay. But the evidence has to be evidence that is unequivocal. It must be one that, if it's going to be admitted, it has to come with the purity of truth in it, and the probative value must be unquestionable.
Okay, Evans, in about 30 seconds before I let you go, would you say that the administration of Muhammad Buhari failed woefully in tackling corruption? Because that was one of the mantra on which his campaign rode when he wanted to become the president. Do you think he failed? Of
course, the administration failed completely. When the number one man didn't know what he was doing or where the country was headed to, it was a clear evidence. It was self-evident to us that 6 months into the administration, no appointment was made. The cabinet was not made up, no appointment. And after he got into the arena of performance, we discovered that his health, began to fail him. In one occasion, he was outside the country in the UK for 90 days. Subsequently, we had other issues that came up, and not being able to do, apart from maybe the railway and one or two projects, nothing, you cannot lay your hands on anything very significant that administration achieved under 8 years. So it tells you that the administration failed completely. And as if that was not enough, the leftover, the debris of that failure is what we are seeing as the manifold corruption that has gone under the ground, where the CBN governor is now in the net of it, and the testimony of Boss Mustafa is also telling us that perhaps the court need to hear from the ex-president, and we have to deal with that.
Well, that's a big conversation that we need to continue to look into. Evans Ufeli, our legal practitioner, thank you so much for coming to our studios to talk to us. We appreciate that. So South Africa is still on the neck of Israel, considering the crusade it has remained defiant upon to continue against the Hamas terrorists. We'll look into that after the short break on the show, The Conversation. And so South Africa on Tuesday said it had asked the world courts to consider whether Israel's plan to extend its offensive in Gaza into the city of Rafah requires additional emergency measures to protect Palestinians' rights. The International Court of Justice last month ordered Israel to take all measures within its power to prevent its troops from committing genocide against Palestinians in Gaza in a case brought by South Africa. Now, Israel has denied all allegations of genocide in connection with its war against Gaza's ruling Palestinian Islamist group, Hamas, and asked the courts to reject the case outrightly, saying it respects international laws and has a right to defend itself. So Dr. David Matsanga, African Affairs Analyst, joins me from Accra, Ghana, and Fazela Mohammed, member, activist for Palestinian, joins me also from Cape Town, South Africa. Thank you so much for joining us on The Conversation.
Thank you very much for having me.
Okay, so let me quickly start with Dr. David Matsanga. Now, despite the ICJ ordering a stop to all actions of probable genocide against Palestinians in Gaza, Israel has remained defiant and is planning to extend its offensive to Rafah. So is Israel not pushing this revenge-filled crusade a little too far?
Thank you very much. First of all, I don't know whether you are hearing me properly.
Of course, we are.
Thank you very much. I am one of the few people in the world who knows what it means when it says, how it comes, and how it will come. I'm telling you that South Africa's case at the ICJ is a misplaced case. ICJ has no biting teeth. It doesn't bite. It can't issue summons. It can't take anybody to court. The South African case was dead on arrival because South Africa did not look at one component of what we call genocide. Genocide is committed when there is an intent. So this case, whether you go to Jerusalem, whether you go to Tel Aviv, whether you go to Ramallah, Rafah, anywhere, it will come back a verdict. There was no genocide. So for them to come back, they must prove that Israel has completely refused to say, go and inspect. Israel has called these people to come and look at the underground tunnels. The UN has refused. The people who are sent there have refused. So for you to go back to court. But one of the things why I disagree with Ramaphosa is Africa has got quite a number of difficulties, worse than what is happening, or the same as what is happening in Gaza Strip. But South Africa has never moved even 1 inch to go to the ICJ to accuse America for having put sanctions on Zimbabwe. Look at that. And you are running because Qatar has given you money, because IUAE has given you money. You are running to get the dollars from them. You run to this case. This case is as dead as its arrival.
Okay, let's quickly go to Fazila and get a reaction to this. This thing that South Africa has no case against Israel, do you think it's a waste of time?
With due respect, South Africa's case, the first leg of the case, they found merit to the case that South Africa presented at the ICJ. The ICJ made that finding. Yes, it is true that the ICJ doesn't have full authority and it will still require a decision of the the US is able to block the decision. But I think that the decision for human rights and the fight for justice for the Palestinian people is an important fight for all of us. We in South Africa recognize that an oppressive colonial settler population and its impact on the people of South Africa, we understood that because we had a similar situation. We had a racist, neo-colonial state, which we fought and through the support of the international community. And many people in Nigeria as well supported our struggle for freedom. And I think, when we talk about such a massive scale of genocide, we can't have a whataboutism. What about Sudan? It is terrible what is happening there. Yes, of course, we know that. But I think that when we're facing one of the biggest, the largest numbers of civilians being assaulted in an open air prison, and people are bombarded left, right, and center, when Israel has never been held to account. I think it's for the first time in the history of Israel that it is called to answer a case. And I think that is really, really important because the age of impunity for Israel is over. So I think that South Africa's case and our president has the support of all our people in South Africa for the support of human rights and justice for the Palestinian people. I don't think it's a misplaced thing. I think that all over the world, people watch with horror. Just 4 days ago, a young girl called the emergency services in Palestine and said, 5 members of my family are killed. When the Red Crescent people found her, you know, they spoke to Israel and said, we are going to rescue this young girl. When they went there, she was rescued. And she and the 2 emergency workers were murdered in cold blood because they were coordinating with the Israelis that we're bringing this young girl who's an innocent child. So I think we mustn't conflate these things. Innocent civilians are being murdered en masse. You know, since the ICJ made its decision, Israel has shown its contempt to the world. Because you remember, the ICJ is not some small organization. It represents the courts of the world, the court of the world. And if Israel just unilaterally defies the decision of the ICJ, it shows its contempt.
But then, Fazila, Dr. David, before you come in, let me quickly just ask Fazila, but then wouldn't you also call what the Hamas terrorists did on October 7, that assault on Israelis in an unprovoked manner, suddenly on a Saturday morning, wouldn't you also consider that as an act of genocide?
I think, you know, when we talk about things, we mustn't forget the historical context, right? Israel, since its inception, has caused numerous massacres. We talk about Sabra and Shantella. We talk about the many other massacres just after the formation of the Israeli state. We talk about the bombardment of Gaza in 2021, and when there was no attack by Hamas, there was continuous assault on the people of Gaza. We know that when people were protesting on the border, peacefully protesting on the borders of Gaza, that they were shot down mercilessly by Israeli snipers. So we can't say that actually, this story started on the 7th of October. And I think in the South African case to the ICJ, they made an important and strong case for the consideration of the context. We all regret the loss of life, any human life. We regret that. But I think at the same time, we must say that we can't talk about a situation ahistorically, as if the world was created yesterday and today there's this thing. I think we must put the things in context, and to be fair to the Palestinian people, they are our people under occupation.
Well,
and I think you must recognize what that means.
Dr. David Matsanga, what do you have to say to this? Most especially the fact that when you see the casualties or the number of casualties on the part of Hamas, or let me say the Palestinians now, not Hamas, about 28,000 Palestinians have been killed. 68,000 have been wounded, including women and children. Is there any justification?
First of all, let me make this very categorically, very, very clear to my colleague in Cape Town. South Africa has never witnessed terrorism. Never. You are there, you don't know the plight of people like us who are close to terrorism. Al-Shabaab in Somalia, that has gunned us in Uganda, in Kenya, in Ethiopia. You don't know. That's why your Ramaphosa is running around going to ICJ. But the moment you know what terrorism is, then you will understand why some of us, I fully support a two-state solution for the people of Palestine. I support PLO, the Fatah group of Palestine. But I don't support terrorists called Hamas. Any African derailed can support terrorism. I cannot be a party to supporting a group that actually daytime prepared, arranged, equipped, crossed over to go and maim. So they had intent. Israel retaliated. Unfortunately, Israel has gone beyond, which we can now tell the world that don't stop there. But when you come on a national television, international television of this nature, you must be very serious. When you say the people in Sudan who are dying, are they not having the same blood like the people in Gaza? Don't ever bring me with such individuals who tell me that the people in Sudan, people in Congo, people in Libya don't matter. And the people in Gaza matter more than the people in Somalia who are being killed by terrorists sponsored by nations that we know.
Well, Dr. Matanga.
I think it will be very bad for us to discuss. Honestly, let me make my point. It will be very dangerous for us to discuss. One person dying is bad enough. I am not a party to people killing people. Whether it is from Israel side or Hamas people, then we must come to a stop. Why I say the South African case is as good as dead is it went to a wrong court. That court cannot enforce anything.
So which court do you think South Africa should have taken that matter to, if not the ICJ?
Let's go to ICC. Let's issue warrants to commanders, both sides. The commanders of Hamas are in Qatar. They are eating food. They are relaxing. The commanders of Israel who are persecuting the war are there in Tel Aviv. Why don't you issue warrants on both sides? Why do you go to a moribund court that cannot give you any justice? My sister in South Africa, tell Ramaphosa, if he didn't go to school, we can school him more on international law because it looks like he doesn't know what he's doing.
Okay, Dr. Masanga.
Let's go to wait first. Let's go to ICC, International Criminal Court.
Okay, Dr. Masanga, let me quickly take Fazala's reaction. Thank you so much for your response. Anyway, now Fazala, there's been accusation that the UNRWA has been supporting or did support the Hamas onslaughts on October 7 against Israel, and they are still supporting that particular crusade. Now, do you think there's any truth to that, and could that have any exacerbating complication as to this offensive that Israel has taken in response against the terrorist organization?
You know, I think first, let us talk about the word terrorism. You know, Nelson Mandela was considered a terrorist by the apartheid state, right? Firstly, he was considered a terrorist. So, and many freedom fighters in Africa, when they fought for their liberation, were called terrorists. We know that. We know the naming of people who fight for justice in their own country are often called terrorists. And I think that we mustn't make a mistake and conflate what the terror groups are doing with the rights of people, the inalienable rights of people. The rights of people under occupation to resist the occupation is a fundamental right, So I think that we need to first of all clarify that.
So is Hamas a terrorist group? Is Hamas a terrorist group?
Yes or no?
David Matsanga, please. Dr. David Matsanga, okay. I beg your pardon. Okay. I need Fazala to respond to this. I will come back to you. We want to get all sides within the fewest number of minutes that we have. So Fazala, I'm asking you, is Hamas a terrorist group, or do you see it as a group that is fighting for the emancipation of Palestinians?
I think that Hamas was elected, I know that Hamas was elected in Gaza by the people of Gaza, right? That is their democratic right, number one. Two, under international law, the people of Palestine who are under occupation have the right to resist the occupation. Three, the kind of circumstances under which people in Gaza live under an open-air siege, they're not allowed to receive any information. There is the most absurd rules that govern how and what comes into Gaza, how people can travel. If you are not allowed to take your child out of the country because they are dying of cancer, or to obtain some medication for very, very ill people, and you have an oppressive ruler that continues with that kind of action against you, what option do you have? As we know, before October 7th, many people protested peacefully between the borders of Israel, at the points between Israel and Gaza. And how did the Israeli respond? They responded with terror. they are the ones who use snipers to kill people. They actually had a thing which they said they're shooting young boys in the knees to kind of cripple, to disable them. And so I think it's really important that as we work to these things, we must be truthful in how we respond. And we shouldn't criticize. Ramaphosa, as president of South Africa, has every right under international law to follow the rules of the law. I mean, if you have a dispute, you go to court. By going to court, you know, if you feel the court is moribund and useless, then that's fine, that's your prerogative. But if you want to use the international legal system, South Africa is full within its rights to actually use the legal system.
Now, Dr. David Matanga, now, just to get your response quickly, earlier on you said you are a party, or you would support a two-party state. Now, both parties, that is Palestine and Israel, have said that they would not in any way sit down to dialogue to channel that course. So what do you think would be appropriate right now to at least stop the killings, see how both parties can come to the table, if there could be whatsoever any resolution that can be agreed upon?
Thank you very much. If South Africa and my good friend Ramaphosa, whom I have defended on many things internationally, had asked me on how to file this case, I would file it this way. I would not start with using the word genocide, because genocide can never be proved in this case. I would have started by calling upon Israel for ceasefire, full stop, and keep quiet. I'm giving you free advice that the people here go back and see what is supposed to be done. 2, I recognize the Palestinian people. I recognize Abbas, Mahmoud Abbas, as the president of PLO. And if you touch him, I will stand with Mahmoud Abbas. But if you touch Hamas, that is killing people, I will not support you. I will support Israel on the question of looking for terrorists who have been killing people, who prepared during the daytime and went to kill people. So Israel acted as a retaliatory system. It has acted beyond anger, with anger. So what we needed to do, my sister here, all of us, and I want to sound this to the world, the United Nations Security Council is dead. Have you heard my words? Dead. 2 countries versus 3. We have killed UN. Let Africa come in. Let South America come in. Let's form a new United Nations Security Council, which can command and bring peace in the world. The current one is dead.
All right.
D-E-A-D.
Dr. Masanga, let me quickly just get Fazela's response now. What would you expect to be done at this time to quell the anger and the killings?
Well, I think that we need to call upon all parties. We know from the time of the Oslo Accords that Israel has no interest in honoring any of its international obligations. So we know that. We also know that this question about, trying to kind of say that, this child who was killed by the Israelis, she's a terrorist, you know. 2 days ago, there was a little girl who was found hanging from...
Fazela, I just need your response in about 30 seconds because we don't have enough time.
So I think that South Africa, by the way, just for the record, went to the ICC and they have laid charges at the ICC. South Africa had over time tried to, South Africa, one of its fundamental foreign relations policy relates to peace building and actually human rights and justice. That is something that we hold dear and we cherish.
So definitely, you would want. Fazela, definitely you would want the efforts of South Africa to prevail in terms of upholding justice and seeing that human rights are no more violated, not only on the parts of the Palestinians, but also on the parts of Israel too. And I think that is where we'll draw curtains on the discussion for today. Thank you so much, Dr. David Matanga, African Affairs Analyst, and Fazela Mohammed, activist for Palestine, for joining us on today's discussion. It was nice talking to the both of you.
Thank you very much, my brother from Lagos, keep it going, and we are not going to give up. The Security Council has let us down. Both of us agree on that.
Well, hopefully,
America, Britain.
Hopefully, we hope that justice will prevail over every situation. Thank you so much Thank you so much, Dr. Masanga, for joining us on today's edition. We appreciate that. My name is Lekon Obanjo. That's the end of today's conversation. Some other time, we'll be back 5 a.m. West African time to look at situations as it concerns Africa. Do enjoy your day.
Africa, a continent with over 3,000 ethnic groups and 2,100 different languages. The uniqueness of the continent lies in its diverse tribes, which speaks to the beauty that is Africa. Today, we're in the iconic African safari destination of Kenya in East Africa, where you will find the Maasai tribe. Who are the Maasai? The Maasai tribe is an indigenous ethnic group of semi-nomadic people who settled in Kenya and northern Tanzania in Africa. With a population estimated at over 1 million people, the tribe is among one of the most recognized ethnic groups in Africa, known internationally for their distinct traditions, their unique culture, and their famous tribal dress, the shuka. The Maasai people can be found near national game parks and reserves in East Africa. The Maasai speak the Ma, a language derived from the Nilo-Saharan family of languages. It is closely related to Dinka and Nuer. They also speak Swahili and English. The Maasai originated from the north of Lake Turkana in northwestern Kenya in the lower Nile Valley. They began migrating south in the 15th century and arrived in the long trunk of land stretching across central Tanzania and northern Kenya during the 17th and 18th century. The Maasai territory reached its most dominant size in the 19th century when they covered most of the Great Rift Valley and surrounding lands from Dodoma and Mount Marsabit. During this time, the Maasai raided cattle as far across the East as Tango Coast in Tanzania. They used shields and spears, but they were most feared for their expert throwing of the orinka or club.
Wow, that's pretty good.
And then came a period of wipeout for the tribe. The Maasai and Mutai lasted for a period of 19 years. It came between 1883 and 1902. This was the time of the smallpox, the contagious bovine flu pneumonia and rinderpest outbreaks, and estimated 90% of cattle,
win at all costs. The grassroots has no place in this. The grassroots is completely isolated from this. The people that are orchestrating this are still those few people that are holding the country's polity at the jugular. Those are the people behind this, not the grassroots. But what they have succeeded in doing is laying a foundation for litigation, laying a foundation for whatever that happens at the end of the day to be challenged in the courts, claiming that whoever that emerges as the candidate did not emerge through the right process. I mean, that's the only thing they will succeed in doing, because the Electoral Act is clear on who will present the candidate of the party in a governorship election to INEC. It is the national chairman of the party and not anyone else. Not anybody that was appointed by anybody, but the national chairman of the party.
So which result do we go with?
So as it is right now, whoever that the national chairman of the party recognizes is the person that would be presented to INEC as the governorship candidate. whatever anybody else is doing, some people that were, laying siege at the state secretariat of the party, the presentation will not be done at the state secretariat. It will be done at the national headquarters of INEC in Abuja. So it's just a waste of time and a distraction and demonstration of I'm trying to be very decent with words, so that I wouldn't use...
Just a quick one before we go. What are the implications, you think, of this confusion for the APC's chances, in the forthcoming state governorship election?
Between now and when the election will be conducted, they have, which is September, they have time to reconcile and move, in one direction. However, if they fail to reconcile properly, we will wait to see what PDP will do on either Wednesday or Thursday, and then Labour Party also have their own on Wednesday or Thursday. When we look at all of that, plus what APC had done or failed to have done, we'll be able to know the direction is going to go. However, if they fail to do the right things, other parties will take advantage of them.
Well, we'll be here for it, of course, to see what unfolds in this dramatic episode of Edo State politics. In Benin City, the Edo State capital, Bernard Akede, News Central's correspondent. Thank you so very kindly, and do stay safe, Bernard. And of course, right here in the studio, News Central TV in Ikeja, Lagos, Uzona Onoye, head of news, News Central Television. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks for having me.
My name is Kofi Bartels. That's the size of our package. We'll be back with more conversations on the drama that is Nigeria politics tomorrow, right here. Same time. Make it a day. Good night. Well, 3-6.
This is not the first time such a bill seeking to amend the educational qualifications of persons seeking to contest for political positions in the country is being proposed on the floor of Nigeria's House of Representatives. Many say the failure to deliver governance in the past can be related to the quality of education obtained by the candidates and lack of ideas available to tackle current challenges in the country. Recently, the House of Representatives was divided as a lawmaker proposed a constitutional amendment bill seeking to upscale the educational qualification of whoever that is going for an elective or appointive position. Although some lawmakers were opposed to the bill, saying it will put their constituents at a disadvantaged position, others supported the bill.
This bill will reflect that it is important for us to have the educational qualification of those who are applying or want to contest into elective offices moved from primary school leaving, secondary school leaving certificate up until at least a BSc or its equivalent.
If you don't have knowledge of the position you occupied, you cannot display or discharge efficiency on that positions.
And they must attain this level of degree before they occupy these offices.
I cannot believe that in this modern age, some people would oppose and say no education.
If you're going to be a president or vice president, or you're going to be a governor or deputy governor of this country, you must have a university degree.
Some lawmakers raised the issue of affordability, disagreeing that mastery of leadership skills cannot be determined by a person's educational qualification.
I know for a fact, and we all know, that your leadership quality is not determined in any way by the level of your educational qualifications.
We were privileged to go to the university. For less privileged people, it is not their wish that their children were not to be able to obtain university certificate or age equivalent.
While the debate continues on the floor of the House, the question on whether the arguments for and against this position is substantial enough to guarantee its passage is left at the discretion of lawmakers.
For now,
this bill is stepped down with the leave of the House.
Though the bill was stepped down by the House, fundamental questions will continue to be asked relating to the quality of ideas Nigerian leaders can bring to the table. In Abuja for News Central, Marvelous Obomman.
Africa is well known for its beautiful landscapes and flora and fauna. One thing the continent also has an abundance of is its local, regional, and national sites that date back centuries. Today on NC Top 5, we will be looking at some of East Africa's most significant historic sites. We start with the Nubian pyramids. The pyramids were built by the rulers of the ancient Kushite kingdoms. The area of the Nile Valley, also known as Nubia, which lies within the north part of present-day Sudan, was home to 3 Kushite kingdoms during antiquity. Deeply influenced by the Egyptians, Nubian kings built their own pyramids 1,000 years after Egyptian burial methods had been changed. The Nubian-style pyramids emulated a form of Egyptian private elite family pyramid that was common during the New Kingdom. Now, there are twice as many Nubian pyramids still standing today as their Egyptian ones. Heading to Ethiopia, we have rock-hewn churches in Lalibela. The 11 medieval monolithic cave churches of this 13th century New Jerusalem are situated in a mountainous region in the heart of Ethiopia, near a traditional village with circular-shaped dwellings. Till date, Lalibela is a high place of Ethiopian Christianity, a place of pilgrimage and devotion. The Pearl of Africa is our next destination. The Kasubi tombs in Kampala, Uganda are the site of burial grounds for 4 Kabakas, also known as the Kings of Buganda, and other members of the Buganda royal family. As a result, the tombs have been described as one of the most remarkable buildings using purely vegetal materials in the entire region of sub-Saharan Africa. Up next is Tanzania, more specifically the island of Zanzibar. Zanzibar was home to one of the largest slave markets in the world. Although the slave trade took place all over the island, 3 major markets saw the bulk of these inhumane transactions. The market in Stone Town was infamous for being the most brutal. Stone Town is a historic trade center with Swahili and Islamic influences. Last but not least, we look at Fort Jesus located in Mombasa, Kenya. It was built between 1593 and 1596 by order of King Philip I of Portugal to guard the old port of Mombasa. Fort Jesus was the only fort maintained by the Portuguese on the Swahili coast and is recognized as the first successful attempt by a Western power to establish influence over the Indian Ocean trade. Fort Jesus was declared a national park in 1958, and in 2011 it was declared a World Heritage Site by UNESCO and highlighted as one of the most outstanding and well-preserved examples of 16th century Portuguese military fortifications. The fort is Mombasa's most visited tourist attraction. That's all we have for you on this week's NC Top 5. Tell us if you've visited any of these sites. Catch us next week for more NC Top 5.
It is a new week. We'd like to welcome you, of course, who's joining us from any part of the world this morning to Breakfast Central here on News Central Television. Thank you for starting up your Monday with us. And of course, for the next 2 hours, we have the biggest conversations happening here in Nigeria and in maybe other parts of the continent to share with you. I am Osaugi Ogbawa and welcoming Olive back.
I was waiting for you to actually welcome me, and I'm proud that you did. Thank you for welcoming me back. I'm very excited to be back. Thank you very much for joining us and for ensuring that the fort is being held down here. Unfortunately, I haven't come back to very pleasant news. It's been bad news upon bad news we've seen happening here in Nigeria. We're going to be looking at some of the top stories with the kidnaps and the killings that are happening and the double results that has emerged from Edo State gubernatorial primaries. We're looking into that shortly. We have Dashan Usman. Good morning, Dashan. Thank you for joining us as always, and it's good to see you.
Good morning, Oliver. Thank you for joining us. Welcome back, by the way. How was your holiday?
It was everything I wanted and then some more. I think holidays are motivation to work. So I've come back to work with rejuvenated energy, excited knowing that whatever work I'm doing now, I'm planning towards my next holiday.
Well, that's the whole idea. Okay, good morning, sir.
Good morning to you, too.
It's nice to have you.
It's been a very interesting weekend. Is there any stories that caught your attention over the weekend?
Let's start with the Edo State primaries. So much confusion in one party, a party that's actually supposed to be united. I remember when I spoke to Bernard just before the primary actually started, he actually talked about how expectant the Edo State indigents were, what they were looking forward to and what they want the governor, subsequently to actually do to improve the state and everything. And just to hear that 3 people have actually been declared winner, from different angles, and it's really, really confusing. If this is actually happening during the primary, it is just a primary. It's not even that deep. It's not a big deal. Do you get what happens during the governorship election?
Okay, go ahead.
No, I mean, it could be seen as a big deal, and but of course, it's not very surprising for a lot of people who follow the primaries, of course, who have followed elections in Nigeria for a while. Ex-Senator Shehu Sani mentioned that the primaries birthed twins in the morning and then triplets in the evening.
What exactly was Governor Hope Uzodinma doing there?
Well, I mean, he's the head of the campaign team or campaign delegation for the...
And even Abdullahi Ganduje came out to, congratulate Idahosa. So you have Hope Uzodinma and Ganduje, that's the chairman of the APC, congratulating Idahosa.
And
so what does that mean?
Well, I don't know. I've seen different reactions regarding Hope Uzodinma being involved, in being a part of the campaign. It's quite interesting because many people not too long ago remember what happened with Imo State and all the drama that ensued. Yeah. So I hope that that's not a repeat of what we're going to see in Edo State. But we'll talk about this in depth, Dash, and see you shortly. But let's share what the top stories this morning are.
As this morning, 12 killed and others injured in fresh Kaduna attack.
And the people of Kaduna will wonder when they would actually catch a break. Still talking about the elections, which we did talk about, Edo gubernatorial elections. 2 candidates emerged in the APC primary. Now, who's the real one? I'm sure we'll find out shortly.
Still talking politics, Plateau State APC spokesman killed by gunmen.
And of course, as we do every morning here on Breakfast Central, which way Nigeria, where we ask pertinent questions.
But also we're bringing you the newspaper front pages, sharing with you the major stories making headlines across Nigeria today. The phones will be open also, so you can join us.
Hello and welcome to Breakfast Headlines. I'm Darshan Usman. The news begins in West Africa as we pick up on security issues. Now, bandits launched a brutal assault on Gindindute Makyali, located in the Kufana district of Kajuru local government area in Kaduna State, in a horrifying escalation of violence resulting in the loss of at least 12 lives in the early hours of Sunday. Eyewitness accounts revealed that the assailants, numbering in large groups, descended upon the community around 5 a.m., unleashing a rain of terror by indiscriminately firing shots and setting ablaze no fewer than 17 houses. The harrowing attack, which endured for several hours without any sign of security intervention, comes in the aftermath of similar atrocities perpetrated in Igabi and Kauru local government areas on Friday night. Now, in the prior assaults, bandits targeted the communities of Gwada and Kasam in Igabi, as well as other areas in Kauru, claiming 9 lives, injuring 7, and abducting scores of individuals, including a retired Central Bank of Nigerian director and his spouse. 2 persons have been killed in a heinous attack on a pub in the Pangshing local government area of Plateau State, Nigeria's north central. Now, reports indicate that among the victims of the senseless violence was a Sylvanus Namang, the publicity secretary of the All Progressives Congress in the state. An official of the party who spoke anonymously confirmed Namang's untimely demise, revealing chilling details of the incident. He noted that Namang was killed when armed assailants unleashed a barrage of gunfire at an eatery in Pangshing, where he had gone for a burial on Saturday. The sudden loss of Namang has sent shockwaves through the political community, prompting calls for swift justice from security forces. Delta State Polytechnic in Ogwashiuku, in Nyocha South Council area of the oil-rich Niger Delta State, has been shut down for 1 week following the incessant attacks on students' hostels in parts of the community by hoodlums. Director of the institution, Professor Emmanuel Achuenu, announced the closure at the weekend for the safety of students as they're expected to resume academic activities on Monday, February 26. However, the State Police Commissioner, Abaniwanda Olufemi, had summoned the area commander and the divisional police officer in Ogwashi over the matter, adding that the institution was closed because of possible protest by students. The police boss said security had been beefed up in the Polytechnic town, stating that the force is entirely on top of the situation. Now, in a bid to stem the tide of illegal forex trading and the abuse of the Nigerian naira, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission has taken decisive action, establishing a dedicated task force. This move comes amidst growing concerns over the persistent depreciation of the naira against the dollar, with recent data from the Financial Market Infrastructure Group revealing a decline to 1,537 naira 96 kobo per US dollar on Friday from 1,498 naira 25 kobo on Thursday. The EFCC's crackdown on illegal forex activities is not unprecedented, with past arrests and operations targeting individuals involved in illicit trading and the abuse of the national currency. Militia fighters killed 15 people in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo's troubled Ituri province, local sources said on Sunday, in the second such attack in less than a week. Now, reports allege that Codeco militia, which claims to defend the interest of the Lendu group, again targeted victims from the rival Hema tribe. Codeco fighters ambushed users of a road near the village of Tali, where they stopped 15 people, including 1 woman, on Saturday afternoon, said Jules Suba, leader of Jugu Territory Civil Society. The militiamen are said to have tied them up and undressed them before killing them. Some victims had their throats cut, others were shot dead. Well, that was a really sad story there, but that's all on Breakfast Headlines. Now it's back to Osauge. and Olive. Olive, welcome back once again.
I really stayed
I was going to say Joe.
Wow, that's a thank you so much, Dashin, for bringing us the news.
Yep.
There's sad stories there, really, really sad stories with the killings, with what's happening in DR Congo. But I think for me, I wanted to focus on EFCC tasking, agencies to stop illegal forex trading. So in December, they had done a number of arrests of these so-called illegal, traders. But some would argue that Nigerians need these forex. Nigerian businesses need these forex to be able to trade with. So if they can't lay their hands on forex from the banks and from the necessary agencies, what exactly are they meant to do?
Yeah, well, these are, very, very important questions, but I'm sure that the Nigerian government will be able to maybe fine-tune the process. Hopefully, I hope that they understand what they're doing. Dashin, we'll see you again at 9.
Thank you so
Thanks
much,
for
guys.
stopping by.
Yes, have a wonderful show.
You're welcome. And very important question, with the seeming confusion with current Nigeria's economic...
yeah, because if I'm traveling and I need dollars, I went to my bank when I was going on holiday. My bank wasn't giving me dollars. They said they don't have access to dollars. So you need money to be able to transact with when you're out of the country. Where are you supposed to get money from? For those who have to travel for school reasons, those who have to travel for medical reasons, how are they supposed to get money? If this so-called illegal forex traders are in there, many people will not be able to get their hands on dollars. Some of them, that's how they run their businesses. That's how their businesses are still able to thrive.
Yeah, well, I'm guessing the CBN, figure these things out.
Really?
I can't answer for them, and I also can't speak on, authoritatively on the forex market. I wanted to just quickly comment on the DR Congo situation, and just talk about how really, really sad it is that we're doing these to ourselves, as Africans. You would almost never hear these type of stories anywhere else in the world. It's really only here on the continent that you hear that militiamen or bandits or, whichever, new groups every 2 weeks is carrying out these atrocities on their own citizens, on their own fellow brothers and sisters. I don't know that I've heard any this type of stories, happening anywhere else in the world, except in places where there's actual war, of course, in Gaza. But aside, those places, why are we doing this to ourselves? Who is arming these groups? What do they gain from the chaos
and what
and
is their
insecurity
underlying
that they
agenda?
Causing? Exactly.
Because back in the day,
Congo.
when we heard about a number of these terrorist groups and these bandits, back in the day, when Boko Haram was in vogue, it was really a fight against Western education.
That's what was said.
Yeah. But obviously, it's more than that. So right now, we really don't know exactly what they want. We just feel like every other day they wake up and want to make the country ungovernable.
Yeah.
And we've lost our humanity, and that's quite scary. When we've gotten to a point where killing is now normal, it's now the norm of the day. And even individuals and citizens who aren't being affected have become very desensitized to it because it happens every other day. It's like, hey, yeah, they've killed again.
Yeah, but it's very true. I'm just, one thing that I know is whatever it is that the story is behind these things is most times a lie. There's always some underlying reason why these things are happening. A lot of times it's money, it's politics, it's
political,
resources, some of all of that. When they give it that religious, tag, a lot of times it's a lie. But I'm just heartbroken because nobody is doing this to us. We're the ones doing this to ourselves. Those in Congo killing, the people in DR Congo, they're very likely from DR Congo. It's just heartbreaking. We'll take a short break. Hopefully there's brighter stories in our conversations this morning. Welcome once again to Breakfast Central on a Monday morning. We'll be back after this break. Welcome back. 2 persons have been killed in a heinous attack in a pub in the Pangshin local government area of Plateau State, Nigeria's north central. According to reports, among the victims of this senseless violence is the publicity secretary of the All Progressives Congress in the state, Sylvanus Namang. An official of the party who spoke confirmed Namang's untimely demise, saying that he was killed when armed assailants unleashed a barrage of gunfire at an eatery in Pangshin where he had gone for a burial on Saturday.
The sudden loss of Namang had sent shockwaves through the political community, prompting calls for swift justice from security forces. Yusuf Gadi, a member of the House of Representatives for Pangshin, Kanam, Kanke Federal Constituency of Plateau, said he expects security agencies to apprehend the perpetrators and bring them to justice. The North Central state has witnessed an uptick in violent attacks by armed men in recent months, and it's a very unfortunate incident. I was reading one of the accounts. On one of the accounts, it was said that someone had said that he had gone for a burial or something and then decided to go to a store to buy something. And in the course of doing that, the armed forces attacked. It just feels like the people of Plateau State haven't gotten a break. It's been like back to back, back to back. Plateau State, Kaduna State, they haven't really had a break. It's almost like they go to bed every day not knowing if they're going to wake up in their own homes, if they're going to wake up at all, not knowing if they're going to be burnt in their sleep. And it just feels like everything keeps getting worse. You know, I can imagine what it would feel like to be a Nigerian citizen living in these parts of the community, not knowing exactly if the government feels the plight of the people. It's not about paying lip service and saying, oh, we will bring perpetrators to justice. How many perpetrators have been brought to justice? Let's go back as far as, you know, the 24th of December attacks. Can we categorically say that we have gotten to the root of those attacks, that we know for sure? Yes, there have been people that have been suspects that have been paraded. Can we categorically say that we know for sure? It's almost 2 months. We know for sure who carried out these attacks. So with every attack that happens, the citizens will keep losing trust in the government's ability to protect them.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's, you know, I like the fact that you've made it a citizens' issue because people were killed. You know, the main reason that this has made the news on this level is because it's the APC spokesman. But this could have been anybody. You know, and, you know, if this was the death of any random citizen in Plateau State or indigenous of Plateau State, you know, it should, you know, raise eyebrows as much, you know, as it is, you know, currently doing.
Yes.
Unfortunately, of course, this, you know, is a seemingly popular person, you know, it's a political figure, the spokesperson of the party, but people were killed. And this, you know, is another reminder that the fight against insecurity doesn't seem to have done very, very well, or it's not seeming to have done very, very well. It's a reminder of the importance, you know, of state police, you know, at some point, or at least localizing the state security architecture so that, you know, it's easier for these things to be arrested and for these people to be tracked and to be found.
But is the government listening at all? You see this conversation about state policing. We've said it at least we've had guests who have talked about it at least 1 million times on this show.
Yeah,
but are they really listening?
It would require some level of a constitutional
amendment. Exactly. One. So why are we not taking steps towards doing that?
But even because I remember last week, you know, there were conversations about the Nigerian governors meeting with the president to discuss, you know, the details on state police. And so even if you don't want to get to the level of constitutional, you know, amendment, there's other ways that this could be done. You know, that's why there's the Amotekun and of course Ibubeagu, the civilian JTF. You know, but how many states are then going to be willing to say, okay, let's now create our own security force in the state? How can they arm these, you know, these ones? You know, what kind of arms are they going to be able to give them to battle the type of criminals that we're talking about here? What level of control would be needed? You know, what level of amendment to the laws in the state judiciary, in the state House of Assembly would be needed to ensure that these things work well? It's a long process. You know, it could be, you know, quickened, but, you know, it's a long process. What's important to state here is that these are clear signs that security in Nigeria is still failing to address these attacks, failing to secure lives and property, failing to protect the average Nigerian citizen, you know, from these attacks. And when these things happen, because there is no assurance that the people who carry these atrocities out will be found, it just leaves, you know, everyone in limbo. And unfortunately, once again, it's a APC spokesperson for the state, but for me, it is a Nigerian life that has been taken.
Exactly, it's a Nigerian life, regardless of how important the person is.
It's a Nigerian life that has been taken.
It's a sad thing.
It could be any random, you know, indigene in Plateau State that probably would even make the news. And of course, you know, we have a story in Kaduna State where it says about 15 people were killed. That has made the news maybe because of their numbers, you know, for one reason or the other. But these are also Nigerian lives, you know, and we need to continue to have conversations and, of course, to remind the government of its failure to protect these Nigerian lives and to give justice to those who, because that's a thing that almost doesn't exist. It almost doesn't exist, the assurance of justice for the lives that have been taken. How many dozens, and hundreds of lives have been taken that till date the Nigerian government cannot beat its chest to say that we, of course, have, find justice for the victims of these attacks? How many families are mourning or have mourned and have given up after mourning for years? They've given up on the possibility that they will get justice.
So this now comes back to an argument that we've had some weeks, months back, where I said that a number of Nigerians who are seeking to move abroad are now not necessarily moving abroad because they need another passport, but they're moving abroad because they want to be able to guarantee safety, to be able to guarantee that they have the minimum requirements that any citizen should ask for. They want to be able to know that they can go to their houses and come back without some random masked unknown gunmen attacking their boss, hijacking and kidnapping everybody and asking for ransom. They want to be able to understand there will be light. I mean, Nigeria right now, I don't understand what the light situation is saying. Almost every community, local government area is complaining about, no light. Everybody doesn't have light. We don't have power. It's terrible. So people just want to be able to afford a decent life. Many people are not asking to be stinkingly rich or wealthy. They just want to be able to afford the basics, the basic necessities. Let me know that, okay, if I'm working, I'm seeing what my money is doing. Yes, they are taxing me, but I'm seeing what the tax is doing. When I go to the hospital, I'm assured of the quality of healthcare I'm getting. When I go home, I will be sure that there's light, that my children are not going to grow up hearing up NEPA like we did and like our parents did. So it's just the basics. The responsibility of any government is guaranteeing the safety and security of its citizens. And any government that cannot do that should question its reason for being in office. A reasonable government that has shame, by now, people will have resigned. With the way the state of insecurity has, taken a total downfall, people should have resigned by now. People in other countries have resigned for less.
I agree, but, that would be in a place where...
They have shame. That shame is a currency.
I mean, yeah, there's shame, and then also, in a place where there's actual value to the life of a citizen. And then a place where also the democratic, tenets in those places actually exist. People can actually make demands of government. People can sack, those who are in office.
When they say that the citizen, in places where the phrase, the office of the citizen is the highest office of the land, is actually a statement that holds water. It doesn't really hold water here.
But also, in places where people, make a commitment to serve and hold that commitment, or at least honor that commitment. And when they realize that they're not serving, they, of course, willing to move away. Let's also not forget to mention the Chief Security Officer of the state, which is Governor Caleb Mutfwang of Plateau State. He also, of course, has some form of responsibility in all of this. Any security challenges happening in Plateau State that he's also not able to, have some control of. It's also his failure, regardless of what the story is.
Regardless of whose responsibility security of the nation is. Right now, he can put, like you've mentioned, there are baby steps and baby measures that can be implemented to guarantee their safety and security. But then...
Well, all right, we'll take a short break. When we come back, we continue on Breakfast Central this morning. The phone lines, remember, will be open at some point. You can be a part of the conversation. If you're from Plateau State this morning, it's okay that you join us. Share your thoughts with us on these stories and let's know what the security situation is like in Plateau State. We'll be back. As to talk insecurity issues, 11 people have lost their lives following an attack by bandits in Gidinduse Mayali village of Kufana district, Kajuru local government area of Kaduna State. Residents of the community were said to be asleep when the invaders launched an attack in the early hours of yesterday, burning houses and shooting sporadically. The spokesperson of the Kaduna Police Command, Mansur Hassan, while confirming the incident, said 9 people died during the attack, while 2 died later at the hospital, while 12 houses were set on fire.
Kaduna Governor Ubasani has condemned the attack, adding that the government is working with security agencies and other critical stakeholders to mitigate security challenges across the state. According to the Commissioner of Internal Security and Home Affairs, Samuel Aruwan, the governor has directed the State Emergency Management Agency, SEMA, to assist the victims. Of course, this is a developing story, and as we proceed, we'll be bringing more updates. But again, a reminder of the conversation we had earlier about the fact that the fight against insecurity in Nigeria, we're still a very, very long way from where we should be. people are still, lives are still being lost in Kaduna. Some have referred to what's going on in Kaduna and Plateau as ethnic cleansing. There's been lots of different interpretations of the killings, but one thing is certain: the lives of Nigerians are being lost, and the government shouldn't take it lightly.
Yeah, it makes you really just wonder, how many more will be taken, how many more lives will be lost, to these very senseless killings, these very gruesome and senseless killings. How many more will need to be lost before the Nigerian government then says to itself, okay, enough is enough? And it's not, I don't want to, paint a picture to make it seem like they're not giving their best or doing their all, but that's what it seems like. And again, how many more will need to be taken before the government then says, enough really is enough, and we need to absolutely sit up, and protect the Nigerian life? Because if we live in a society where we can read these stories and hear that 11 people were murdered, 12, 15, 72, 9, doesn't matter what the number is, by people that we still cannot name or identify, we just randomly call them bandits, but they're not stealing anything. We've called them bandits. I mean, we got so lazy with accountability that we called people unknown gunmen.
Because that's an easier way to generalize these criminals.
Do you understand the complete lack of accountability to the Nigerian people who voted you into office? That you call people who have murdered dozens and hundreds of innocent Nigerian citizens, including security officers, unknown gunmen. There was never a time that the Nigerian government decided that or accepted that it was their responsibility to figure out who these people are, find them, arrest them, prosecute them. We accepted that unknown gunmen were killing dozens of Nigerians in different parts of the country. That level of lack of complete self-awareness and lack of accountability to the Nigerian people, that's where we are. And so that's what I'm asking. How many more will need to go before we then say enough is enough as a government?
And you know what even scares me is how many have even gone underreported? Yeah. Because we have a challenge with data collation and data collection in Nigeria, because even with the way that we report these stories, and I'm saying we, including media, but media would work with the information that it has. So we report it in numbers. 15 people killed, 2 people killed, 20 people killed. We don't report according. You would hardly see where we're saying, oh, this person and that person. We don't attach names to them. We don't have enough data to be able to say, okay, this person from this local government was killed, this person from this family was killed. They're just all numbers now. That's what it is. And, it's just back to what you said, a reflection of the laziness that we as a people have. The laziness that our law enforcement agents, our security agencies have come to accept.
Laziness and mostly lack of, accountability to the people. Because nobody believes that they will be fired. Nobody's job is threatened when 15 people die and you do not, catch, the killers. Nobody's job is threatened when, nobody's job is threatened when, 100 people are bombed, by the Nigerian Air Force when they make a mistake. They misfire, they made a mistake. Hey, sorry. We're shy, we made a mistake. Nobody's job or position is threatened, and that's really the main reason, because the Nigerian life has not held that much value over time, and so when it's taken, it doesn't feel like the country has lost anything. And these are actual human beings that have had dreams and aspirations and goals and have paid their taxes. And the taxes, of course, that are meant to also protect them and pay the police officers to protect them. So because there's zero, accountability from the government, you'll find these things happen, and you don't hear that the governor is, really, really broken. It's not broken. The commissioner of police is not broken. The president is not broken. There's nobody who seems to actually care that these lives have been taken. And that's, I feel is the foundation, for these conversations, and that's the reason we can read these stories and move on to the next story, which might be talking about agriculture or electricity
or something else, just a random. Because 5 minutes ago, we cared partially that 15 people were killed gruesomely in Kaduna State. 5 minutes later, we've moved on. Because the Nigerian government, the people who are in office, who are going and running through hundreds of billions of naira every year in government funds, do not care. Like, the governor is not going to be bothered. You know, he's not going to be told by the people of Kaduna State or anywhere else that he has failed to protect the people of Kaduna State and he doesn't deserve to sit one more day in government house.
No, there's not.
Neither will the president, neither will the inspector general of police, neither will, you know, anybody who's National Assembly, who's representing these areas where these people have died. Nobody will be told.
Actions and consequences. So it's just like you've said. There aren't consequences for actions. What really bothers me is the fact that if we look at other countries, other more developed countries, people have been sacked and people have resigned for less. You know, you don't have to lose the lives of hundreds of your citizens for you to know that you have failed in your capacity to protect, you know, to be able to protect the citizens. And if you can't protect the citizens, what are you doing there? Your responsibility is to protect them from external aggression and also, in this case, internal aggression. But, you know, you've not been able to do that. This morning, we're joined by Comrade Samuel Tabara. He is joining us from Kaduna State. He's in charge of the Kaduna People's Union. Good morning, and thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning.
Yeah, you're the president of the Southern Kaduna People's Union. I think the first thing is to commiserate with you and with the people of Kaduna State for this incessant, you know, losses that we're seeing. So I think the first question would be, exactly what is going on? You know, what is the update that we have regarding these senseless killings? Are we making any headway with regards the insecurity challenges in Southern Kaduna?
Well, like we all know, these attacks are persistent. And one thing that stands out clearly about the aim of the attackers is to displace the people of their homes, dispossess them of their lands. And for me, I do not believe that government and security agencies of this country don't know whom these attackers are, or they are lacking the wherewithal to identify them. I do not believe. I don't believe. You know, and the way we are going, these attacks will never stop until the people stand up in self-defense against these attackers. I do not see how these things are going to stop. And if we as Kaduna State indigenous and other Nigerians being bedeviled by the spate of these attacks are expecting that one day government will say, get up, defend yourself, you are wasting your time. If you are waiting to say somebody will provide for you the wherewithal to defend yourself, you are wasting your time. We will all die miserable death. We must devise means of defending ourselves. These people are within us. They go about procuring arms and ammunition all over places. And our armories, are they being audited? Because you cannot rule out that their arms and weapons, some of them are even from government armories. You cannot rule that one out. So we need a comprehensive audit of the movement of arms and ammunition out of our own armories, first and foremost. Let us know what is happening within the security agencies.
So are you saying that there is a likelihood that the government
do not have the wherewithal to identify who are these attackers?
Yeah. Kindly hold on. Are you saying that the Nigerian government and security agencies are complicit in these killings? Is that what your analysis is showing you? Can you hear us clearly this morning?
Oh, it seems we're struggling a bit with the connection. We're still having a conversation this morning with the president of the Southern Cardinal People's Union, Comrade Samuel Tabara. We're hoping that we can reconnect with him as the internet is a bit shaky. But yes, he's expressed great displeasure as to what exactly is happening and inferring that the government is not unaware of the people who are doing this.
It's not possible. He's not the only one who feels this way. He's also not the first person who's made a statement like this. Even far back many years ago, what's his name now? Danjuma. Theophilus Danjuma made, that very, very popular statement now that they collude. But over time, we've heard this thing, from many people who live in Southern Kaduna, who live in the Middle Belt region, who have been victims of these attacks, that there's almost no way you would, beat your chest and say that the government is not aware of where these people are or how these killings have occurred or, how these, there's some information that they're definitely aware of. And I've said it, before that, the Nigerian government also cannot tell the Nigerian people
that
if you err against the government today, they would find you in 2 days.
What is 2 days?
But let's give them 2 days. But they don't know where these bandits are, maybe if you want to call them bandits. Comrade Tabara, can you hear us? Comrade Samuel Tabara, can you hear us?
Can you say again?
Yeah, I'm asking you to clarify. From your statements, it seems like you're saying that the Nigerian government is complicit in these attacks. Can you clarify?
No two ways about it. No two ways. I strongly believe that the Nigerian government is complicit. No two ways about it.
And like you've said, these aren't, killings that, these are not religious attacks. Is there any understanding as to why these things happen? Is this ethnic cleansing? Is it, a land grabbing issue? Are these religious attacks? Or are these, people who are, stealing and robbing the people there?
Yeah.